How many times have I received this message? Chess teacher, I'm playing a chess game. Everything's going well. I'm developing my pieces. I'm playing the opening I like. There comes a point when we're no longer playing anything we've studied, but both my opponent and I are improvising a bit. I start attacking where I shouldn't. Maybe I capture a piece I shouldn't, but I don't realize it, and suddenly I find myself in a lost position or a tough situation. Well, my friends, this is actually much easier to solve than you might think. And this was explained to us extremely well by the famous chess player Jose Raul Capablanca, who had some very simple rules to maximize his good moves and, of course, also to maximize his opponent's mistakes. And it was very simple. Let's take a look. But before that, let me say this because it's really important. You're lucky you clicked on this video because today, and if you're lucky enough to be watching it right when I'm publishing it, it's the last day you can join the Academy at the launch price. Last day. Starting tomorrow, the price goes up to the regular rate, which is more than double, okay? If you sign up at the launch price, pay attention, okay? You'll keep that price forever. It's my, let's say, reward for those of you who have trusted the Academy from the very beginning. The Academy is going to keep increasing in value, more classes, more features, but the price will stay the same for you because you'll lock in the launch price. Today is the last day. You have a 7-day trial for just €1 or $1 right down here in the description. Take a look, give it a try, friends, because you won't regret it. You'll regret it if you don't join today. All right, so Capablanca, let's check out this game because it's going to be super illustrative, friends, and these patterns will stick in your mind so you can use them in your own games. So the game started with a French defense opening. Honestly, the opening you play isn't 100% important. Why is that? Because there are tons of openings, and if you play them well, they're all excellent. You should pick the one or ones you like the most. However, of course, obviously, you should at least know those basic opening concepts so you don't make those typical mistakes that you could have already studied beforehand. In the French defense so far, Capablanca controls the center with his pawns, which is what you should always do, right? Even if our opponent didn't do it right from the start. And now you have several options here. For example, right, the option to advance, to capture, or the one Capablanca chose, which was very popular at the time, and I really like it a lot, knight to c3. Do you know why I like it so much? Because here, a typical mistake is to play c5. French defense players might know this, but be careful. This error loses a pawn. After the exchanges, do you see it? This pawn is attacked by 3 pieces and only defended by 2, so the e5 pawn falls. Playing c5 against knight to c3 is a major error. Makes sense, right? That's why here, the black player decided to capture the pawn. Simple. Capablanca says, what am I going to do? Well, obviously, recapture the pawn. Come on, chess teacher, calm down. You're getting carried away. Fantastic. We have a well-centralized knight, but it's true that now our opponent will be able to, let's say, kick it out with this knight to f6. First, he plays knight to d7. Do you know why? So that later, when he plays knight to f6, if Capablanca wants to capture, then simply this knight would recapture the other, and he won't have to take his queen out for a stroll. Very well, here, Capablanca had to think, as always, what is the best move? I'm going to try to think in a simple way. Develop minor pieces, the bishops and the knight, right? As a priority, we develop the knights first. Whenever we have a choice, it's always better to develop the knights, since they're in an excellent position at the start of the game when well developed. The game continues as we expected, with this knight from g to f6 attacking our central pawn. And at this point, well, Capablanca didn't complicate things, as always, and simply captured this knight. He captured it, right? It's an exchange of pieces, and at this moment it benefits me. Why? Because it's my turn again. After this exchange of pieces, we're simply in the same position, and it's my move again. And Capablanca says, well, I'm going to place this knight here in front now that the knight on d7 is no longer attacking this square. A knight that's going to be extremely well placed, because to drive it away, you either have to give up the pair of bishops or move your knight again. But the pawn won't be able to drive it away because you have the knight on f6 in front. Capablanca, as I said, acted on simple impulses. He didn't calculate thousands of variations. I'm putting the knight here because it's going to be very well placed, and from there it'll attack important points in the position. bishop to d6, attacking the knight. And now Capablanca says, hey, I could develop these two bishops, that's true, but I see an even better move. And that move is queen to f3. Why? If developing the queen is, in principle, a move you shouldn't make at the start of the game, they've always told us that. That's right, that's true. However, Capablanca realized that he could develop it to a spot where it can't be attacked, and that his opponent only needs to develop this bishop. If he develops it, which pawn would he stop defending? This one right here. Therefore, I could capture it with the queen from f3. Also, if he decides to move this knight, I would checkmate him on the next move. As you can see, this move isn't harmless. It's telling your opponent, make a mistake and I'll wipe you out. You see it, right? If you move this bishop, I'll take you out over here. If you move this knight, I'll take you out over here. And there's no way you can attack my queen. The game continues with c6. And now, this is the moment where probably many of you would make a mistake. You developed a bishop to castle, right? Maybe the other one, you never know, but you have to have empathy in chess. It's extremely important because if you don't think about what your opponent is going to do, we're not going to be accurate and they'll destroy us. Think for a moment. If your opponent can, for example, castle, which would be the most normal move, why would they bother advancing a pawn? We could say it's to block this diagonal, sure, but what else for? To open up the queen's diagonal. Well, now a move as bad as, let's say, a normal bishop development would lose a pawn after bishop takes knight and queen to a5, they'd check me and take this pawn. Oh, so the queen can come over here with drastic consequences, so we have to think a little further ahead. If this pawn moves, it could be that the queen can join the attack. And we should especially think about this when there are threats of check. Check and what else? Check and then they take here. So be careful. What does Capablanca do? Very wisely, he blocks the diagonal of the check. Sorry, this bishop is here. He blocks the diagonal of the check. And that's why here, Capablanca makes very few mistakes. And what he does is make his opponent make many more. Castling. Now we need to develop these two bishops. Capablanca says, well, I'll develop this one, because that way I put pressure on this pin, right? And now I'm threatening a capture over here. If you capture with the queen, I'll capture too. I'll double your castling pawns. I'll open up your king. And that's why he forces his opponent to retreat. Capablanca was known for attacking very well in a cautious way. He develops the bishop and attacks. That's all there is to it. He just looked for attack and moves that work. No architectural wonders, right, friends? Very good. He develops the bishop, forces the opponent to retreat, and now, well, he develops the other bishop. To this square? Why? Since he's passive, he can't go here. And here, he'd hit the pawn wall. So d3 is best, pointing at the king. If I attack this point with the bishop and later the queen, it's checkmate. And you might say, no, because there's the knight. Yes, but I can take out the knight at any moment. So, friends, he's already putting pressure on the opponent's castling. And that's why here the black player says, look, you know what? I move the knight to attack your bishop. You see it? I'm attacking your bishop with two pieces. So do you move or capture? Well, Capablanca would say, I'll find the best move. I don't care what you do. You're threatening my bishop, but I'm going to threaten something bigger. Checkmate. Didn't I just tell you that if this knight disappeared, I could go give you checkmate? Well, exactly. I don't care if you take my bishop because I'm going to checkmate you, right? So what should the opponent do? You might say to me, well, h6, right? A typical move, I attack this bishop and also block the checkmate. As those of you who are in the academy already know, because just 2 days ago we uploaded a class about sacrifices on h6, here you could simply capture this pawn by sacrificing the bishop, and probably there's no way you're getting out of this, because I have too many pieces attacking, and this bishop sacrifice for 2 pawns would be absolutely devastating. And that's why here the player with the black pieces blocks the position with this f5. It makes sense. Now the bishop can't get through. However, you just created a weakness that could be attacked in the long run, and that weakness is this pawn that's now left behind. And as we also see in some class in the academy, a backward pawn is treated just like an isolated pawn. Right? Why? Because the d pawn is gone and the f pawn is advanced, no one will be able to push this pawn forward. And that's why we've now placed a knight on d5 as an outpost, which is playing a key role deep in enemy territory. At some point, I'll move this knight away when I'm ready to attack this spot. For now, you can't drive it out in any way. Now, yes, you're threatening my bishop, and I'm no longer threatening mate, so it's simple. Capablanca didn't overthink this. He just traded the bishop and had no more problems. I won't get into complicated variations. Now what? I castle, right? Before it's too late. Careful, you might come in with the rook, but I don't care. What can this rook do? Come attack my queen. Well, when it attacks her, I just move her out of the way, and that's it. So I bring more pieces into the attack. These two rooks aren't doing anything. Capablanca always tried to coordinate his pieces so they were all active. He always thought if he had 5 pieces, he should attack with all 5, as that's simply better than using just 2. This is a mistake many people make, attacking with fewer available pieces than they could. Don't be hasty. Let's bring all the pieces into the attack. And how do we do that? Well, this rook is missing, so I move the other one up so the corner rook can come right behind. Obviously, don't take this bishop, because taking this bishop would mean giving away one of the best pieces on the board right now, which is this incredibly strong knight on e5 for a bishop that can't do anything at all. Besides, it's blocked by its own pawn structure. Alright, so now what, chess teacher? I have all my pieces well developed, a good pawn structure, a very strong knight. I'm attacking. What do I do now? Well, now's the moment, as Capablanca used to say. Once I have all my pieces well placed, it's time to advance, gain space, and create threats. Let's go for it. C4. Why C4? To advance to D5 and start breaking up all these black structures, and since we have so many pieces in the attack, they'll work beautifully. Start knocking down the house of cards, but always from the base. Alright? Let's take a look at this because it's extremely interesting. The knight moves away, and many of you might say, hey, pushing forward here would be the candidate move, but is it a good move? Well, let's think about it. There's no need to calculate 20 moves ahead, just reason it out. And I'll explain it in a way that everyone can understand. If I capture with this pawn, well, I'll recapture with the other one and keep up the pressure. Nothing has changed here, right? And if they capture me with this one, well, if they capture me with this one, that has to be a mistake no matter what. Why? Because you're exposing my queen, and I have discovered attacks here. Like, for example, knight takes bishop, where I'm going to win material no matter what. If you take here, I take your rook. If you take here, I win the queen, right? So no matter what, it's a bad idea to capture with this pawn. Therefore, if you take with this one, I keep up the pressure, and if you take with this one, then you've lost outright with knight takes bishop. So, well, d5 is the right move. Obviously, knight takes knight doesn't worry me, which is what happened in the game, because I simply recapture with the rook, and now this rook is perfectly placed where no one can kick it out. Why? Because the dark squared bishop isn't there and can't kick it out, and neither can the knights. Basically, they have a bishop that will never be able to attack a dark square. Look, black keeps reinforcing their position well. Obviously, now something really strong was being threatened. And what is it? Well, it's starting to capture either here or here, since they'll never be able to recapture this pawn because the queen is pinned, and that's why they reinforce this f5 square so well. All right, Capablanca says, I have my rooks well connected, the bishop is well placed, the pawn too, but this queen isn't doing anything, so I move her up 1 square from where she directly attacks the opponent's pieces. Interesting, right? The king positions himself to defend everything well, and the queen says, well, I'll centralize and cut off the king again. Do you see how Capablanca was thinking the whole time? Improving the position, improving the position. Watch this video as many times as you need, friends. It's super important because sometimes, by watching it more than once, you notice details that you didn't catch at first, right? Careful, the queen's attacking us. What do? We move her away, of course, obviously, but where to? Easy, to the only square where I keep attacking the king. You don't have to think too much, right? Black keeps strengthening their structure, and now it is the right moment to capture this pawn. And why is it the right moment to capture this pawn, friends? Because Capablanca has a plan. First, can this pawn be captured back now? Can black play, for example, bishop takes? Let's calculate it. Well, no, because now this bishop could be captured and lost for free. The queen can't capture, because then it would be lost, and the rook can't capture because it's pinned. What was Capablanca's plan here? By taking this pawn, it can't be recaptured. If the bishop or queen takes back, the piece is lost. And the rook obviously can't capture it because after rook takes rook, discovered check, I'm going to take the queen. That's why he moves the bishop away. And now what? Well, now Capablanca's plan is as follows. Pay attention because this is really interesting. First of all, the bishop moves to e2. Chess teacher, you can't tell me this is a good move because look, you're just letting your opponent capture, since now, yes, this pawn can be taken. Don't you see that I no longer have both rooks attacking, and after bishop takes, it can't be captured anymore? Because if I capture now, they'll simply take my rook. Correct. But what Capablanca has done is simply trade that extra pawn he had, just a pawn exchange, to improve his bishop. And now this bishop wants to move to the f3 square to join the attack. And you might say, chess teacher, even if black has it well defended, is this really a good deal? Well, look, all Capablanca has done is place his pieces well. He communicates with his pieces and places them on the right squares. The bishop is pinned and can't move, because if it does, the queen is lost. These pieces can't move either, because if they do, the bishop is lost. So black is completely tied down. They have to play more or less around here. And Capablanca keeps improving his pieces and putting even more pressure. For example, now on this bishop, the rook comes here. Very good. We've got him tied hand and foot because he can't move. You see it, right? This bishop can't move because the rook would be lost. This rook can't move because it has no squares. This one here is pinned like the queen and the king because the bishop would be lost. Once they're tied hand and foot, we look for another threat. We bring in the queen to attack this spot here. Hey, the king is escaping, so now what? Well, but if he still can't do anything, I just keep up the pressure. This is the last, let's say, nail to finish driving and what's left, right? We've got our opponent tied up, so let's attack him with whatever we've got now, with the pawn. Black can't do anything. Unfortunately, they tried to push this pawn, and white just kept tightening the screws more and more. Black advances the pawn, but it doesn't do any good, because after pawn takes pawn and black recaptures, white actually has, yes, you heard right, the game won with a brilliant move. Anyone who wants to study, pause the video and see if you can find the best continuation for white here, because it's a really beautiful sequence. It's not easy, but it's a really beautiful sequence that ends with the cherry on top, making this game incredibly beautiful. All right, let's go. The game continues with his sacrifice. Rook takes bishop. Chess teacher, didn't you tell me that here Capablanca didn't think about super complicated lines and all that? This bishop sacrifice seems complicated. No, because he saw that after all the rook exchanges here, this rook would simply be pinned by the bishop. So I can take the pawn without any problem, since you won't be able to capture it because of the pin. And when you move your king, I'll simply capture the rook, and I've won this rook, which at first I had sacrificed. So I've won a bishop completely for free. And on top of that, I'm going to checkmate you if you don't realize it right away. Probably, this game would have been decided earlier, but here the black pieces have decided to resign. A masterful lesson from Capablanca that's worth watching more than once. Just like it's worth it, of course, friends, please give it a try. Join the Academy, because today is the last day ever that you'll get the launch price. And if you join at the launch price, you'll keep it forever. No matter how much the Academy's price goes up, no matter how many thousands of new lessons we add, more value, more content to ChessMine, you know you get it all. Weekly strategy lessons recorded on video, and of course, full access to ChessMine. And now, in the coming days, we're going to add a course by the women's master Julia Molatet, who will provide us with a 12-lesson beginner course for all of you who are finding the current strategy classes a bit challenging. So you'll have even more content at your fingertips. All of this, of course, is included for every student who's part of the Academy. Try it out because it only costs €1 or $1. Try it out. Choose the plan that best fits your situation. Because when today ends, my friends, there will be no turning back. I hope you enjoyed this video. Get in touch with me when you join. When you join the Academy. We'll be in contact, of course. And as always, I'll see you in the next video, friends. Goodbye.